In this video, I'm going to be going over trade routes inside the Star Wars galaxy. I'm going to be using a number of canon and non-canon maps, so some planets may be moved around. Not really that much of a bother. All of this is to help you guys understand trade, travel, and wars inside the Star Wars universe, giving you guys a different perspective, and overall the way that how I look at trade routes inside of Star Wars. So let's get into it. In general, the same materials were traded on these different trade routes. Of course, some of them were a bit more specialized depending on what planets they came from, but food, fuel, people, armies, you get the deal. I'm not going to be going over what was actually traded, but trying to just give you guys a general overview of what the trade routes actually look like. The Perlenian Trade Route expands from the core to the eastern reaches of the Outer Rim. It kind of slopes through the east just outside of Hutt space and was one of the major hyperspace routes in the Star Wars galaxy. The infamous Corellian Run expands from the core to the southern/southeast of the Outer Rim. This is a very populated area in Star Wars and is kind of the economic powerhouse. Along with that comes the Corellian Trade Spine, going from the core to the southern end of the Outer Rim, and again linking with the Corellian Run, a very important hyperspace trade route, and of course going through the most populated area in heavy economic zones of Star Wars. This is a very important area to control in the Star Wars universe for not only trade, power, money, fuel, armies, you name it. The Corellian Run and the Corellian Trade Spine are kind of the most important parts of the Star Wars universe, cutting through some of the most important planets, and again, all linking back to the core worlds. What I call the extension of the Corellian trade routes is the Rimma trade route. Going from the core worlds to the southern reaches of the Outer Rim, it kind of scoops up some more planets that the Corellian and Hydian Way trade routes don't gather up, but this trade route, the Rimma trade route, does cut through the Corellian Run in the Hydian Way. So as all these trade routes intersect with each other, this is where you see a lot of trade between a lot of the planets, creating again the economic powerhouse zone in some of the most populated areas of Star Wars. This is why you end up seeing a lot of these trade routes going through here, because if you want to trade with planets all the way up in the north, you have to go through the Hydian Way that cuts through, and if you want to go out to the eastern part of the Outer Rim territories, you're going to have to go through the Corellian Run. So this is kind of a connector and kind of scoops up some more planets outside in the southern reaches of the Outer Rim. Last but not least is the Hydian Way trade route. This is the longest trade route in the Star Wars galaxy, as it slices through the eastern part of the galaxy, starting in the northeast and ending kind of in the southwest region of the Star Wars universe. This is the longest trade route, like I said, and in one way or another, all the different trade routes that I've talked about, the Perlenium, the Corellian Run, the Corellian Trade Spine, and the Rimma trade route, they all end up touching the Hydian Way, so this kind of creates the largest superhighway or hyperspace lane in Star Wars. So if you have to trade with someone from the northeast to the southwest, you're going to take the Hydian Way, and if you want to link up any other parts in order to get to the core worlds one way or another, you may end up touching the Hydian Way, and because of this, it also starts in the corporate sector, as if they have the largest, most important part of the Star Wars trade galaxy. The corporate sector wants to be a part in control of that, so this is why you end up getting stuff like the Trade Federation, the Techno Union, the Banking Clan. They all, in one way or another, have their hand in the Hydian Way, the largest trade route in Star Wars. What do all these trade routes have in common? They all lead to the core worlds and the capital of the Galactic Republic, Coruscant. If you take a look at some of these maps, you can see where interplanet travel is possible, but if you want to cover long distances in the Star Wars galaxy, you will end up on these hyperspace superhighways known as the trade routes of the Star Wars universe. So if you take a look at the map and you're looking all across, you can see where individual smugglers' runs would end up occurring, or where people would end up avoiding these superhighways, as these were the regulated areas in the Star Wars universe. And if you, let's say, lived in the outer reaches of the Outer Rim and you wanted to trade with someone in Coruscant, you could take one of these trade routes to sell your goods, your materials, your supplies, etc. But however, when everything gets so expanded in a republic, conflict is inevitably going to happen. And this is where it leads into the Clone Wars. And I'm going to be showing you guys a map of kind of the Confederate Independent systems, and then looking at the Galactic Republic and kind of seeing if you link up all the trade routes, you can see where the Confederacy was trying to establish their own independent neutral system, to which where they would have their own control outside of the Galactic Republic. All roads lead to Rome, all trade routes lead to Coruscant. So if we take a look at this map of the Star Wars galaxy, during the time of the Clone Wars, we have the blue regions being the territories of the Galactic Republic, the red being the Confederacy of Independent Systems, and the yellow being the Hutts. I didn't really talk about the Hutts in these trade routes video, but of course if you want to deal with the Hutts, you have to go through their territory, their trade routes, smugglers, X, Y, and Z. You can also see that there is some conflict areas in the Hutt space, but really they're their own territory. The Hutts have always controlled a part of the Star Wars universe, but I want to talk about the CIS and the Republic in this map. So if you were living in the Outer Rim territories all the way out here in the northeast and you wanted to funnel trade all the way down to Coruscant, you would end up getting shafted for your wealth, materials, X, Y, and Z, because basically you would have to funnel it all the way through the trade route at what your end would be the start of this, and all the way at the end would be Coruscant. So what the Confederacy of Independent Systems was trying to do is what it looks like off of this map, was to suffocate the Republic. If you can control the outside of these trade routes, you are essentially controlling the start and end points of a lot of these trade routes. If you kind of fill in the gaps between the Republic and the CIS being red, if you were to connect all of the red points together, it would again suffocate the Galactic Republic, allowing for a independent neutral territory for the Confederacy, more or less, that they would be able to have their own regions that they would control outside of the influence of Coruscant, and thus generating more wealth for the people in this area. And this is why the Clone Wars essentially happened, is that it's a battle over trade routes. If you remember in episode 1, the invasion of Naboo was because of taxation of free trade routes. Star Wars in many ways has always been about trade. So again, if we look at this map, we can see what they were trying to do in terms of creating a blockade of the trade routes inside of Star Wars. And I think if you have a broader knowledge of the Star Wars trade routes, the Clone Wars, looking at all these different battles and what the Confederacy was initially trying to do is, again, have a start and an end point for a lot of these trade routes, allowing for their own economic exclusive zones that they would want to do with. And I really didn't talk about a lot of the materials being traded, but of course, you know, food, gas, fuel, everything, weapons, armies, all of this all stems from the trade routes inside of Star Wars. So I hope that this video was a little bit informational, and I kind of threw in my interpretations of the Galactic, of the Clone Wars, not Galactic Civil War, but if kind of threw in my own interpretation of the Clone Wars in this, that if you look at this map, you can definitely see why the trade routes would be important, and you can also see why the Confederacy of Independent Systems would want their own territory, because if you look at it, the Republic is becoming very much an empire, and why wouldn't we want a Confederacy of Independent Systems to control our economic exclusive zones? And it just overall helps you understand the Star Wars galaxy, the trade happening, why the Clone Wars started, why battles were taking place in certain areas. It is all because of trade routes, materials, supplies, X, Y, and Z. Star Wars is awesome. I hope this map helps explain that. So with that, until next video, subscribe if you would like, and goodbye.